My name is Megan Brakeley. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the food and garden educator at the Knoll, which is Middlebury College's student-run garden and garden space.
My name is Cassia Park. My major is environmental justice, and I'm a junior at Mid.
So the Knoll is located down that way, down College Street or 125 toward the west of campus, and it's located on a little hill. It's about a 10-minute walk from Adirondack Circle, and it's on a little hill situated on some really beautiful soil for growing vegetables. The Knoll is Middlebury College's student-run garden farm event space, and the mission is to explore food as a medium to cultivate well-being in people, place, and the planet. We grow food. Very literally on the surface, we grow food for the dining halls. We grow about 3,000 pounds of produce to help fill in some gaps for what an already existing really robust program at Hope, which is our largest local food shelf in Addison County. For scale and context, they glean 38,000 pounds of produce each year. And gleaning is basically the practice of helping to prevent food from going to waste out in the field. But they glean 38,000 pounds of produce each year. We donate about 3,000 pounds, right? So it's a very small portion, but we try to do it in a relationship so that things that don't typically get donated or aren't often in excess, we'll try to fill in some of those gaps. So it's like they don't usually get onions, garlic, and butternut squash, and we specifically grow those things just for them. We also grow some food and sometimes seeds in partnership with Chief Don Stevens of the Nolhegan Band of the Kusagabanaki, and each year we host like anywhere from 40, in the past we've done like 70 events for student orgs, departments on campus, different courses. We've got a research project that's over 10 years old that is partnered with the ES 112 class. We are developing a partnership with the School of Abenaki in the summer, which is really exciting.
I am involved by being a volunteer at the Knoll. I'm affiliated with a lot of the past Knoll interns. And so just by being a process of being in the community and knowing the people involved.
The reality, if that's really our mission, if we're talking about well-being, the reality then is that work needs to be centered in anti-oppression work and helping to hold some space so we can unearth the histories and the legacies of how our modern food system came into being in this country, in this region right here, in this place. And so, that begins with naming land theft and genocide and cultural erasure and enslavement and the farm systems and scales that operate today, which is both like the very feel-good, small-scale family farm with a nuclear white family that's multi-generational, and also large-scale dairy operations that primarily operate with migrant farm workers who are making the farms be able to run, and also a number of creative, cool other operations that are trying to explore some of these broader questions about like connection to land, connection to place, what it means to be here, what can it look like to do earth work as care work, as healing, as food production for our families and our friends and neighbors.
Okay. Maybe she.
I think the obvious things of why in general people get involved with the Knoll is like some people will go to like learn about how to farm or just to be in like a nature filled space and to get that sense of distance away from campus. But I think what keeps people like actually continually coming is the people who tend to the space. And so that's Megan, who's very intentional about how people can participate, and it's like the Knoll interns and everyone else involved who care so much, not about just the environment or about how to learn how to, let's say, farm, but just care a lot about people and how we can maintain relationships and really make space to both learn and share and simultaneously, or like no matter who you are, like knowing that you have something to contribute to the space.
I don't know about hooking the root, but
Oh yeah, or you could kind of get like the.
because I'm like, because I feel like if I do it here, it's just gonna rip off the middle, right?
Yeah. So like,
I just make a
the
straight
idea is
line
that
and
you just
then
go as
hook up.
deep as you can and get it from the deepest part as you can of it. But those are pretty skinny. Did it rip at the end or is it?
No.
I find it so amazing that I was able to find perilla leaves, which connect me to like my own Korean culture and heritage at the Knoll, which I wouldn't expect at Middlebury, especially considering that it's pretty white. And like thinking about just like how things are grown and knowing the technical, I guess, aspects of like how can garlic be planted and like being able to see it the next, like, I guess, season. And being able to see all those paths and like that whole cycle of life, I guess. I think in ways like it's a space where I can also appreciate like the lessons that nature has.
Something. Bad run of Sharpies. What is the deal?
I have a great UV resistant hat. I got it.
And we think about food really expansively, like as something that is complex and touches on identity, on culture, on power, on patterns of movement, and our ideas of ourselves, on memory, on on deliciousness. And we support student interns to help facilitate the space, hold volunteer hours 5 days a week during the growing season.
What class? Carrots! I thought bio standard was art. Oh, wait, at Chris.
Oh, okay, Chris.
Woo! Woo! Okay, woo! There's one more tray to come out. Hot plate! Does anyone want to make a pizza? I'll make a pizza. Yeah.
Sorry.
But I'll do it. You can work under the tutelage of David.
No one needs to know.
What they don't know won't hurt them. That's not true.
Hot pizza! If anyone wants any.
Yes, please. Great job.
was.
I think that the Knoll has offered so much that it's hard to just think of one thing that, like, my brain can't process everything even now. Yeah, I think it's provided a space for me to see how I can be involved in the food system, as I said earlier, and seeing ways in which care can be at the center of building relationships, and also like how much joy there can be with food, and that, and I guess coming from like a suburb in California, there aren't really farms that I can get involved with. And I think that sustainability, when I was at least learning through the education system, wasn't really a highlighted thing for the future or for the present, I guess. And so it's like the Knoll, by just being in the place and by working on the land, like it gives a new way of seeing value. Seeing like the value of people who work or who care for the earth and know like the intricacies of like the seasons or what pairs well together, and all that like knowledge that's been passed down.
My favorite part of the Knoll is it's such a privilege, and it's basically like a dream to get to go out there and try to hold that space and support it in whatever ways. You know, if I'm doing my job right, I think that there's a lot of flexibility and openness that we can receive students with all of their different experiences and questions, and see what we can do together. So, you know, if that takes the form of having a pizza party and a hot sauce making competition with some like heritage variety of Korean gochu peppers that like happen to be personally dear to me because they're threading together these woven stories of transracial, transnational adoptees who were plucked from Korea as a part of 200,000 people who were upended from their like communities and culture and language and plopped into the US or elsewhere. And we can celebrate like trying to weave through and not, there's a lot of complexity, and there are many, many, many points of entry around food and growing food, being in our bodies out there in space together, learning about what it means to be here in this place in unceded Western Abenaki lands, and just trying to. I love that the space allows us, and the students, you all have such beautiful, important questions that I think the Knoll offers certain ways to dip into, to start to tease apart some answers or some approaches to about that relate from the big picture universe types of questions like, what are we doing in the face of climate change? How do we navigate the fact that we're like here on this campus in this Middlebury College community, and also existing in so many different other places in the world in different ways, and we show up in different ways in different spaces. But like, I think that through the very specific practices of learning to be in place, caring for soil, being able to operate in relationship, and having time and space to do that and reflect and notice and get totally surprised by the random things that come up when you are actually doing stuff like in nature and in the weather when you don't have control. Those are powerful there's a really powerful setting that opens up a lot of space to do more. And I think like you can have some of the best conversations that I've ever had were like when we were just like waiting across a bed, you know,